let's talk about what's going on in your office, Jocelyn. Uh, and I like to put it the conversation in the context. Our office has been advised, and we've gotten a lot of complaints of late night robberies, especially in the 207 area, of individuals who are watching, when the patrons come out of the clubs or the restaurants right around 1:30, 2:30 a.m. And they, victimizing a lot of these people and at gunpoint at times. I've seen some of the videos, and I'm sure that you have, being just robbed, not at broad daylight, but usually, they know they're brazen enough to know that the cameras are watching them, and they still do it. So that's pretty much why I wanted to call a lot of you from the enforcement agencies and kind of like briefly explain what you've experienced, what some of the people in the public have experienced, and what we can do as a community and your agencies to try and control some of it. So, Jocelyn, I'm going to start with you.
Sorry. So I think this is best to start with law enforcement, because honestly, if we're talking about robberies and stuff like that, it'd be good for the committee to hear what the inspector, has been doing to make sure he addresses that. Because honestly, the DA's office, we come in after the fact, right? After an arrest. So if you don't mind, I think that's the way we should.
Sure, not a problem, because I'd like to hear whether you've gotten some of the same complaints that we have been receiving.
In terms of robberies, no, I haven't been getting calls directly to my office regarding that. Usually, if there's a victim that needs services or something like that from our office, then we definitely connect them with our witness aid services unit. But of course, that's after an arrest that we come into contact with that victim.
Okay, good enough. We're going to start with CEO Castillo.
And good evening. Thank you all for having me again. So obviously, I've heard those a lot of the same concerns that you have, Eli, regarding the robberies over on 207 on Dyckman, 10th Avenue, which was a serious problem over the summer. But believe it or not, we're actually doing very well. Don't get me wrong, one robbery is one too many, but if you compare it to, a month ago, 2 months ago, we're doing drastically better. And that's due to downtown helping me out with additional resources. The Patrol Bureau Manhattan North also helping me out with additional resources. And just my cops and my supervisors kind of stepping up their enforcement. So early in the summer, we were getting hit with a lot of gunpoint robberies for jewelry around the club areas. And the perpetrators were mostly utilizing vehicles, high-end vehicles, Mercedes-Benzes, BMWs, to commit these robberies. Obviously, these vehicles had fake plates on them or paper plates on them, so it made it difficult for us to track them. We're really getting hit hard over the summer. We were averaging right around 30 to 35 robberies for a 28-day period. And more than half of those, so in the 16 to 20 range, were gunpoint robberies, and most of those for jewelry. So in late June, downtown and the Patrol Bureau put together like a mini task force. I'm sure some of you saw the THV, the big police vehicle over on 204 and Broadway. We kept that in place for about 2 to 3 weeks. That helped a lot. It helped us identify the perpetrators that are committing the robbery, so we were able to make some arrests. Most of those perpetrators reside in the Bronx. They utilize the 3 bridges to get into Manhattan North and then commit these robberies and then go back over. So that helped a lot at the end of June, but we were still getting hit somewhat in July and August with the warm weather and people going out, flashing their jewelry after the clubs. So we were still getting hit with that. But for this 28-day period, we're actually doing very well. We're actually down in every 7 major category, except for 1 category, which is rape. So rape, we're up 1 versus 0. And that's a domestic rape. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. The perpetrator is identified and he will be arrested shortly. But every other category, we're actually down significantly. So robberies were down 30%, felony assaults were down 27%, Burglaries were down almost 60%. Grand larcenies were down 13%, and grand larceny auto were down 27% as well. So we're doing very well in the 28-day period. Again, that's thanks to the job that my cops are doing, but also I've gotten additional resources. Downtown has given me citywide traffic task force. So they're a task force that really dedicate the bulk of their time doing traffic enforcement, and they're normally utilized downtown, so in the Times Square, Manhattan South area. But I was lucky enough to get them for a month. They're no longer in the precinct, but that ended last week, and they were a tremendous help. They were giving me 3 vehicles per platoon, so that's 9 vehicles a day, and they were just out there conducting traffic enforcement. I also received a strategic response group. That's a group that moves around depending on who's spiking in crime. And while I wasn't necessarily spiking in crime, they were concerned about the robbery, so they did give me SRG as well on all 3 platoons. I was getting 2 cars on each platoon, so that's 6 additional vehicles, 12 additional cops. They helped tremendously. They were doing a lot of good enforcement, especially with regard to the paper plate enforcement. So they were bringing in a lot of arrests for forged plates, vehicles that weren't registered properly, things of that nature. And then we've also utilized some of our city agency partners to help with the vehicle enforcement. So this past week, we did a joint operation with sanitation. We towed more than 40 cars that either had fake plates on them or weren't registered properly. Then 2 days after that, we had resources sent down from downtown. So they gave us 3 tow trucks from 6 at night to 2 in the morning on Friday and Saturday. We towed in excess of 50 cars over the weekend and issued over 60 summonses. And again, I've said this before, but we're not looking just to victimize, the regular person going to work, stopping at a restaurant to grab something to eat. But we are targeting the areas where we've had those issues with, because what was happening over the summer is the perpetrators were basically just circling the block waiting to see who comes out of a club with jewelry on, and they were just striking then and robbing them at that point. Or they would wait for people hanging out by their double parked cars outside, just hanging out with their friends, talking, flashing their jewelry, and they would approach them that way and then rob them at gunpoint. So we're really trying to target double parked vehicles and then high-end vehicles that have fake plates on them, because those are the ones they've been using for robberies. But there has been a drastic improvement, as I mentioned. I'm sure the weather has something to do with that. The fact that it's colder and people aren't out as much or out as long as they were during the summer. So it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. We have great communication with the club owners, the restaurant owners along 207th Street, the bouncers. They all have our phone numbers. I actually got a text last night from individuals who own and operate Opus Lounge. They were concerned about the crowd. So I sent some cars over there for additional resources. Unfortunately, we did take a robbery last night, though, a gunpoint robbery on 205th Street and 10th Avenue. And it was a gunpoint robbery. So basically what I described earlier, 3 individuals hanging out by their cars. A black Mercedes-Benz pulls up. 3 perpetrators exit the Mercedes-Benz at gunpoint, rob the individuals for jewelry. They fled in an unknown direction. Right now, all we have is a blurry image of the vehicle. So we don't have much to go on yet, but I'm sure my detectives would work on it and eventually, come to a perpetrator. Other than that, going into the new year, obviously we'll employ a lot of the same strategies we did this year, hopefully with much more success, especially in the summer months. There's a new administration, as most of you know, within the NYPD, new chief of department, new chief of patrol. They're dedicated to providing resources to any commands that need it throughout the city. So I'm sure that if we need the help, we'll get it. And then, as long as we employ these strategies and we put the plan into effect as best we can, I'm sure that will be successful going forward. But I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Sure, there's a question on the floor. Actually, there's 3. I'm going to go with the first one. Carlos Mansueta asks, what about drug selling in the streets with signage board in 207 and Broadway?
Yeah, so we have been made aware of that. Well, we were aware of that, but we know that it's a problem within the community. I've got some phone calls last week about that. We went over there, we made an arrest. I've mentioned this before, marijuana enforcement is a little tricky. And I'm not saying that we can't do anything about it, but we do have to get a little bit creative. So what we like to do is we approach the set If someone takes ownership of the sign and the marijuana, then we can give them an oath summons for unlicensed general vendor. We take the sign, we voucher it, and that's basically it. If the person does not take ownership of the sign, we cannot issue a summons, but we do take the sign anyway, just to interrupt their, their drug sales. And we've been keeping an eye on it. We went over there today. We made another arrest for a forged vehicle at that same location. There was a gentleman there who was obviously dealing marijuana. We couldn't get him for the sale of marijuana, but we did take his vehicle and we did bring him in for having a forged plate. So we're concentrating on that area. But like I said, with regard to the actual weed sales, it's tricky because, we're not prosecuting marijuana sales, and we can't prosecute for possession if it's less than 3 grams. So, we have to get creative, but we'll keep on it. We'll dedicate some resources to that location. I'm aware of the issue.
I have a couple more, Julio Batista and Cassandra Collazo. Julio. Julio, can you hear us? You're gonna have to promote them both, Paola, Cassandra and Julio. Cassandra Collazo. Technology, CO. You're with us, Julio? And Paola, and also Cassandra Collazo, I think it's her last name. Okay, Julio, here you go.
Hi, sorry, I just raised my hands. I don't have a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, beautiful. So Cassandra Collazo then next.
But
Sandra, you gotta unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Commander Castillo, I don't know if you remember me. I'm the Girl Scout troop leader in Inwood, and I had met you at the High Bridge Fair. And we had briefly discussed Girl Scouts. You told me your daughter's a Girl Scout.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so on a lighter note, we've been trying to reach you because one of my older Girl Scouts is working on a Gold Award project with NYPD and Youth Roundtable with Al Santino. So she wanted to come and interview you, but you're like untouchable. We can't get to you. And even through my good friend, Officer Perez, I haven't been able to reach you. So, and I feel like we can't just go in and say, hey, we're here to see the commander. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you can do that, but I'll give you my number. I'll get you my number somehow. Chris Perez has been responding to you, or hasn't been responding to you?
He has, but he keeps telling me you're so busy. I'm like, I know he's so busy, but come on, he's a Girl Scout dad. I'm sure he will make time for us, but nothing.
I'll get back to you. We'll make time for it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, all right, great.
I wasn't aware that you're trying to get together, honestly.
Since the summer.
Chris is busy also, so I don't want to, blame Chris. Chris is very busy, busier than I am.
Oh no, he's amazing. He always answers my phone calls.
Okay, yeah. So we'll make it happen. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure we get in touch with you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Cassandra, for your patience. I have 2 more on the Q&A. One of them is referring to electric bikes and scooters. The question is, one man on a scooter who nearly mowed me down on a sidewalk said the laws do not apply to electric vehicles, only gas powered.
A man scooter nearly mowed me down. Said the laws do not apply to electric vehicles. Well, electric vehicles can operate on the sidewalk. That doesn't mean that they can operate recklessly, though. So they still have to respect, the laws, and they can't just be reckless about the way they're operating. So yes, they can operate on the sidewalk, but they have to be obviously fully aware of the fact that other people are on the sidewalk. They can't just be mowing people over. So we year to date, we've conducted a lot of moped and scooter enforcement. We're way up on seizures, so that's been a focus for us all year, and we've done a good job of it. I mean, we'll stay on top of it, but you also have to remember that, we have a policy. We don't chase vehicles. We don't chase scooters. So it is pretty incumbent on whether they want to actually pull over for us or not. And while most of them do, a lot more than you would think do not pull over for us. So it makes it tough for us to conduct the enforcement. But like I said, we are way up this year. We've been really focusing on that.
All right, does anyone else? Oh, Nancy Preston, our lovely guest.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you, and good to see all of you. I know Inspector Castillo, you just said about the difficulty enforcing with the signs and the drugs, and just wanted to make sure you're aware of the same thing happening on Dykeman, the north side of Dykeman, right off Broadway. They're there regularly with their signs. They work out of vehicles, so that might give you some leverage of enforcement right by the vegetable stand, the barber shop,
Yeah,
there.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. So I think, they're pretty regularly and established. And then, and then I reiterate what Cassandra said, we were hoping to get a meeting with you sometime soon with the task force on noise. So I hope we can connect on that. I know things have been very busy.
Yeah, but no, we'll get together. I'll make a note to have Chris reach out to you guys and we'll schedule something coming up soon, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, CL, for taking such good battery of questions. I think that you've been extremely helpful answering some of them. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we move on to what seems to be the highlight of the night, which is the 33rd precinct and the slew of robberies that have been happening up there?
No, as long as no one has any other questions, just thank you for having me, and I'll stick around in case someone thinks of a question and getting a chance to ask again.
Okay, and the last one, it says mopeds are allowed on sidewalks and run red lights on Broadway. I'm assuming that's on your side of town, CL.
They're running red lights. That's something that we would definitely enforce, and we have enforced, as I mentioned. But electric scooters can ride on sidewalks, but like I said, they can't be reckless about it, and you do have to obey the traffic laws. If you're a gas-powered moped, you operate just like any other vehicle. You have to obey all the traffic regulations. So that's something we've enforced all year. We'll continue to do so. We'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Captain Pagan, just to put it in context, I don't know if you've been reading the Q&A, but usually there's a lot of commotion regarding two gunpoint robberies that transpired in the 788, 790 Riverside Drive. And that our office has been getting a lot of calls and attentions in reference to this is what seems to be something new to that part of the neighborhood. So you want to talk to us about that?
Yes, we've had two in, well, for the 28-day period, we're actually down in robberies, 7 with 13. I'm sorry, we're down 12 with 11 versus 23, so 52% decrease for the 28-day. And for the year, we're down 31 or 14% in robberies. We've had two within the 28-day period along the Riverside Drive area. And for the 28-day period, we've made 5 arrests for robbery. So even though we're, of course, that's one is we don't want to see any robberies, but overall, it's not indicative of a disturbing trend because we're the only command in the city that is actually down year to date overall in crime. We have our officers are mindful of it and they do respond fairly quickly, which is why they've been able to make those arrests. And the others the investigations are still active and the detective squad is working on them. But that is an area that we expect to continue to make progress in. And as the numbers indicate, for both the 28-day and the year-to-date, we're down significantly in robberies.
Yeah, and about the robberies in 788, 790 Riverside Drive. Is there
That's the address of the 788.
788 and 790. Actually, the question is, what is being done from Wayne Benjamin, our chair of the land use resident of the area? What is being done to increase patrols in the area of Lower Washington Heights, west of Broadway, along the Riverside Drive area?
The sectors we have, they do their directed patrols in the area, and we're having the checkpoint. When we do checkpoints, we also have directed the platoon commanders to have them along the lower end of Riverside Drive for that reason. And also along the other bridges that give us access. So they are aware of it, and they are spending more time also with the lights on to project omnipresence, because that's oftentimes that works in deterring criminal activity.
Has anyone been caught from those two robberies? What's the latest update on those?
No, not yet. They haven't made arrests in regards to those two. No.
Are you guys bringing more cars into the area? How many patrol cars do you usually have?
We normally put out 5. With the ending of the 125 street detail, we're able to get cops back, and we normally put out 5 cars, and sometimes a response auto, which gives us 6.
There's a question on the QA from Shannon Fleming's hand. She says, in her personal observation, she's never seen any NYPD presence on Riverside Drive. So that leads me to the question, usually, or within which times you guys have the most presence in the area?
Well, remember, the presence happens, this is while they're not answering a job. So when a sector is responding to a radio run, which is all throughout their tour, they're not free to drive up and down any particular sector or street. So, but when they're free, they do their directed patrols in that area. So that's in between, the time that they have quote unquote free between the next radio run, that's when they would pass by.
Wayne?
Thank you, Eleazar. One of the incidents in the area of 790, 788 Riverside Drive was at 2:30 in the afternoon. And, my neighbors are just sort of wondering, how, usual is that? Because many of us have lived in the area for, decades. And while, we're always cautious at night to have gunpoint activity at 2:30 in the afternoon is something that seems unusual to us.
Right. That case is being investigated. It's an active investigation by the squad.
And Captain Pagan, how many total police officers does your precinct have at this point?
Police officer, 151.
151?
Yes, but that's between all 3 tours.
Okay, so how many patrol cars do you have at once during, say, peak hours?
So during the day, it'll be 5.
5. We normally will put out 4 or 5 sectors plus a response auto.
So 5 cars.
So that's about 5 cars.
So what's the criteria used to determine which areas need the most patrol cars or not, based on complaints, or is there something that is really given to y'all?
Well, the precinct is broken down into 4 sectors. So you have Adam Boyd, Charlie David. Sometimes if we have an extra, we'll split like a sector Boyd 1 and 2, and then those cars are available to answer radio runs, calls for service from the public within their respective sectors. If another sector is tied up, yeah, they may get assigned a job that's outside their sector. So they're always answering radio runs. Sometimes they might catch a pause And then that's the time when they know, because they give an instruction that roll call pass by this area because we took a robbery or we had a grand larceny of a vehicle or and so forth. So we have some rookies that along Broadway, but they're on foot posts there. So that's another help that we have.
So is there a combination of foot patrol and car patrols, or just either or at any given time? How does that work out?
The rookies are there on foot posts during a 4 to 12 tour along Broadway, the Broadway corridor. Whereas the sectors, the 3 tours, that's a 24-hour operation. Whereas the
Anthony?
rookies that we get from the borough, they're not there 24 hours. They're there for the 4 to 12 tour.
Anthony?
Hi there, my name is Anthony Viola. I live in the area where these 2 incidents occurred, and I'm just curious because I don't know too many details about it, but I have a lot of neighbors who are frightened, obviously, after the incidents. And I'm just curious if the police think that these incidents are connected in any way.
No, they're not connected in any way.
Okay. And when you noted that there's an ongoing investigation for both of them, are you able to speak to, what that investigation looks like or how much progress you've made? If you can give like a percentage, or do you think you're close to an arrest?
Not whether or not they're about to make an arrest, but I can tell you that of the 11 robberies that happened for the 28-day period, 5 of them have been closed with arrest. 4 of them by patrol and 1 by the detective squad. So when patrol doesn't, when our officers on patrol don't make the arrest, it goes further up to the squad and they do the video canvas. Sometimes if they get a partial plate and that kind of stuff. But if they're close to making an arrest,
There's flyers out there.
we have flyers out there to assist, to see if maybe the public can recognize some of them and call it in. And that's the status of the investigation.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to chime in and ask questions regarding that incident that occurred? When did this happen? Last week?
The one at 790, I have it up here.
I think they were both on November 30th.
November 30th.
And I have a question unrelated to those 2 incidents. The TD Bank at 158th and Broadway was robbed during the day several weeks ago. Was an arrest made in connection with that?
We know who that individual is. He's part of the citywide pattern. That's his name is Michael Roseborough. I had to look at the board because I have his name up on the board. I was actually there at the scene for that one. So we know who he's hit numerous banks throughout the city, and they're looking for him. So we know who he is, and it's just a matter of time before we find him.
Have a question from Sally. She's a resident of the 788, 790 Riverside area for many years. She's asking whether she also agrees that these incidents are unusual. Were you guys able to utilize local building security video for the investigation?
Some of the still photography that we have are, yes, from video cameras, from building cameras.
So the answer would be yes. Karen J. Winfrey Lee. I guess she would, Paola would like to be promoted, if you don't mind. Karen? You would have to unmute yourself. I think you can speak. Karen, you would have to unmute yourself. There you go. Cannot hear Karen. Karen? Okay, anyone else that has any other questions to Captain Pagan? No?
Hello?
Oh, there you go.
Hi,
Go
can
ahead,
you hear me? Okay. Hi,
Yes.
thank you for waiting. I'm sorry. I'm at 788 Riverside, and the neighbors I've talked to here said there were 3 incidents, but there's confusion. But there was a woman who was assaulted. Is one of the incidents of the 2 you're talking about, including the woman that was assaulted at gunpoint, and it's been described to us as an attempted rape?
No, that I was working that night when that happened, and I spoke directly with the officers who brought her in. The person displayed what the lady thought was a gun, but the person never said anything to make her believe that she was about to get robbed or sexually assaulted. She yelled and he ran away. It ended as quickly as it started, and we don't know what his intentions were. But the crime was recorded as a menacing, and the detective squad is working on that case. But no, it was not. He never touched her.
So that wasn't a part of the 2 things that you just were talking about?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so there were 3 incidents then within a 2-day period.
But that was not this incident that you referred to was not a robbery.
Well, can you tell me what happened?
Yes, when she entered the lobby, the man was behind her. He called out to her. She looked back. He produced what she thinks was a firearm, and she yelled and he ran away. He never said, "Give me your purse." He never took anything from her or touched her. So it could be that his intention was to rob her, but he never articulated that. He quickly ran away.
And someone said that he pushed in behind her, but that doesn't sound like what you're describing.
He never touched her.
So he didn't push in behind her. He just came in.
He walked behind her into the lobby. Yes, but when you say push,
Okay.
that insinuates that he touched her. No, he never touched her.
So basically, she let somebody into the building behind her. When she came in, he caught the door.
Correct.
Okay, and they're saying that they ended up in this across from the mailboxes underneath of the staircase. Is that what you heard?
In the lobby. It's my understanding that the incident happened in the lobby.
Yeah.
I don't know how far into the building,
Okay.
but it was in the lobby, and she was unhurt other than frightened by the experience, which is understandable.
When was that in sequence with all the other things that happened?
That was last week. I don't remember the date offhand, but I was working and I spoke directly with the officer.
So that was Wednesday night, they're saying around here. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, could be.
So then when did the other incidents happen?
The 790 was on November 29th.
What day of the week was that? Because I think it was like 3 things happening in 2 days, like 2 things on Wednesday and 1 on Tuesday, all at gunpoint is the point I guess I'm trying to make.
Yeah. The 29th was a Tuesday.
So the Tuesday and then 2 things on Wednesday.
Yes.
You guys don't think it's connected? Or why don't you think it's connected? I'm just curious.
The robbery at 790, that was 4 or 5 guys. This person was acting alone.
It was 4 or 5 guys at 790?
Let me pull it up again because I have it here. This was an individual that was going to work.
Check number
Which one?
7.
790 was one individual.
Okay. And then at 788, was that at the vestibule entrance on 156 or on Riverside
Is
Drive?
that the 788? Because I don't see it on my robbery. Is that the one with the lady, the menacing with the lady? 'Cause if it
No,
wasn't-
I heard that there was a robbery at 788 too, but see,
That may have been the
I'm trying to
menacing.
find out what happened, because,
That may have been the menacing with the lady because that wasn't recorded as a robbery.
okay. So
So
where
that's
was
why I
the
don't see it
other
as a
robbery?
I have a question on the Q&A. Sorry, Karen, just to give
Yeah, sure.
Robin a second and ask her question is that maybe she missed it, but do you believe that these changes in the past few weeks are related to anything in particular?
I've always wondered about the fact that during COVID, they released a lot of people that they said were non-violent, but then who knows if they became violent or, while they were in prison. But I wonder about the fact that there were people who were released because they said that they had to relieve pressure in the jails during COVID. I wonder about that. Could it be the fact that there's more criminals on the street because of that release? I mean, how are those guys followed and monitored after they get released? They don't have sources of income right away, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. That's what I wonder about when you say, what could I think it is? I think it might be that.
Anything is possible, but I don't, if people get released, they have the, if they're on probation, that's a separate agency, and sometimes we do notify them when the individuals that we apprehend for unrelated reasons, if during the time of day they're violating the parole, that we notify the parole officer to see if they violate them.
So, Anthony, and actually Noah Gurdon, since you haven't, and then go back to Anthony. Noah?
Hey, thanks for taking my question. It's not really a question, it's more of a comment. I live in the neighborhood as well. I live at 779. And I just want to say that, I have a young family and my parents are here. There's a lot of elderly folks that are in the Oval. And I just want to voice a similar concern that, I think people are really nervous and would appreciate some, greater help or greater care. And it's not really a question, just would hope to have a little bit more of a police presence here so that people feel safe. Thank you.
I'll make sure to let the officers know, because I'll be here when the next tour, the midnight tour, comes out. And in the interim, the one is here, any downtime when they're not answering jobs in the sector that covers that area, which is Sector Boy, to give extra attention to Riverside Drive.
Thanks.
Can we have someone who comes in and gives us do a meeting with the tenants at 788 to say, women, this is how you protect yourselves. This is, is there anyone available that does that without?
Yes, the NCO officers. We can notify them.
Yeah, Anthony, one last question on the topic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate to keep circling back to it. I guess now I'm a little confused because at first we were talking about 2 armed robberies, and then there was this other incident, and then that seemed to drop the number of armed robberies to just 1 with this menacing incident. And then there was a quick comment about a possible armed robbery with 4 or 5 people involved. So I just kind of want the officer to just exactly state, like, in the last week, what exactly happened in this area, in the 780 790, 788 area.
In the 790 Riverside, that was one, an individual was walking with his dog when he was approached by a male who demanded his wallet. That was one person.
So, so just to clarify, there's only been one armed robbery incident then in this area. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, there were two.
So where did the second one take place?
That's the one with the individual coming out of the building. I'm looking for it.
Okay.
But then that other one with the lady, that was never a robbery. That was not, because the person never made a demand for property.
Okay.
He never touched her. It ended just as quickly as it started.
Understood. But so this second armed robbery, are you saying that in that one there were 4 or 5 perps involved in that?
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So that would be 4 incidents. then.
No.
So one question, actually there's 2 more. One from Victoria. She says there's a lot of tinted and unmarked cars near 790 Riverside Drive. Are there any efforts to ensure this area has been surveilled or protected? So there's been people using the scaffold to exercise, and people hanging around making the neighborhood feel unsafe. What efforts are being taken to ensure safety?
If a vehicle is parked with tinted windows, there's not the vehicle has to be driving, and with tinted windows that surpass the percentage allowed by the law. But if it's just parked, the officers are not gonna initiate it because there's nobody there.
So you pretty much would only address it if there was a call.
Like if we're doing a checkpoint and then the car passes by, and yeah, then it could be addressed. But if the vehicle is just parked, there's no enforcement to be taken.
Unless there was a crime that takes place, basically.
He can get pulled over if the person is driving with tints that are in excess of the percentage allowed by law, then the person can get pulled over.
Okay. Dr. Chris Sullivan says that the early release is not consistent with the trends of decrease in robberies. The unexpected, unusual always stands out in the area. And then Oliver Knowlton says that seems like the 34th precinct got some extra help from Midtown precincts during the summer. Could PO again, get some help for a period to get more patrol cars?
We're doing fine with the amount that we have, the 4 or 5 sector cars that we put out per tour.
Did you find the incident about the 4 to 5 people that surrounded somebody or something?
Yeah, that was a Riverside Drive at 162. But that was November 9th. That was
a while back.
Yeah. And
thank you.
And it doesn't say anything about a gun. There was no gun involved in that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there seems to be, I guess, a larger conversation to be had as far as, the need for more surveillance, more patrolling, whether you need more officers and so forth. You just said that you feel confident that you're okay with what you have. But I guess we would need more, this neighborhood in particular would need more of a proactive policing.
We would always, everybody, we all would like to have more resources. That's always welcomed.
So maybe we
It
need
doesn't
to,
hurt for sure.
maybe with the help of our community members, come up with a resolution asking for a bit more. So that it seems to be the overall sentiment that that little unsafetyness is really taking its toll on people's ability to conduct their day-to-day activities. From what it seems like, I know that the way that the questions were being asked seems, that is a real need, and we at the right time from it becoming a trend. Since it seems to be as though perpetrators want kind of like the word gets around that they can get a way of doing things in certain areas. So that's pretty much what I think most people are saying. Is there anyone else that we want to ask Pio Pagan before he leaves? Or he can stay around for any other questions that someone can come up with. Karen, are you okay with what we've covered so far?
I appreciate what you just said. Yeah, I think what we want to see is every now and then a car coming around, just every now and then, so that just like it's random that a car could be coming around that I see, it's going to be random that a car could come around that a stick-up kid could see, It's like that helps a lot. And the car that you had parked down there with the lights on, that was great because anybody even from Broadway could have seen that there was a car down on Riverside. That's very helpful. Really appreciate it.
I see Noah shaking your head. Would you like to say something?
No, I just wanted to thank you for speaking on our behalf. My son is 15 months old. My mother, I won't say her age because it's being broadcast, but we got a lot of people here who need help. And I appreciate you speaking up for us. So I'm just thanking you. Thank you, sir.
Well, appreciate all of you being here. You have a good crowd, and you feel like an athlete. Feed off of the energy. So I'm really satisfied with you guys speaking up. It really does make a difference. Hope you two officers feel the same. That this has been a great conversation.
Yes.
Ms. Minaya from the DA's office, would you like to add something?
Sure, I would like to say good evening to everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Jocelyn Minaya, and I am the Director of the District Attorney's Washington Heights office. And I'm very sorry to hear, of these unfortunate events that are definitely affecting so many people on Riverside. And it's my deepest hope that the police will able to make an arrest on all three incidents as soon as possible in order to bring some sense of normalcy back to the residents of the Oval over on Riverside Drive. And of course, whenever that does occur, we will be there to support NYPD. I have just 3 updates in terms of what's been going on my end, at least to highlight these things. There's a lot more that's been going on. So in following Inspector Castillo's report, back in August, we announced, Ellie and I, of that 90 count indictment against a few members of a gang that was identified as OED, or Own Every Dollar. We believe that they contributed greatly to the robbery numbers over in the 3-4, as well as other parts of Manhattan, and if not the city. So, usually these takedowns happen and, people think it's over. It's still an ongoing investigation. And then just recently, we wanted to announce the indictment against 7 additional people as a part of this long-term investigation. So, it's our hope that the arrest of these people and the indictment of these people will help, the number somewhat in terms of robberies. And these are exactly the people that Inspector Castillo described in terms of their method of operation. Fancy cars, random robberies, taking of jewelry, money, And a lot of these OED members, or some of them, were also part of a couple of homicide investigations up in the 3-4. So, we'll keep you posted in terms of how that is going, and of course, update the committee if there are additional arrests and what's going to, happen moving forward. We also wanted to bring information about another ghost gun indictment that came down. This time, the person was operating out of the Upper East Side, and he was arrested or indicted for manufacturing 14 ghost guns. So Upper East Side, what does that have to do with Washington Heights? And we don't know where these guns were going to end up eventually, right? So we were very happy to have been able to partner with PD to get this guy, and the sad part about it was the way that law enforcement became aware of it was that he actually posted pictures of his child holding one of the guns. And a family member saw that and they called it to law enforcement attention. And it makes me sad that he thought it was a good idea to engage his child in this activity, and possibly continuing the cycle. So he was indicted for the 14, plus he had hundreds of rounds of ammunition on him when they did the search warrant on his apartment. So I'll keep you posted on that case as well. And then finally, I just wanted to share, sometimes we get caught up in what's happening, rightfully so, in terms of on the ground level, and the violence that we see. But there's also a whole bunch of other investigations that go on a day-to-day basis. And one of those was actually the arrest of a doctor and 8 other people that were charged with distributing opioids and other pills. And it basically was a trafficking ring where they committed this crime here in Manhattan to sell these pills out in Staten Island. So this Tribeca physician, his name is Dr. Noel Smith, was indicted along with 9 other individuals. And the charges include conspiring to distribute tens of thousands of prescription pills, including opioids and other controlled substances, both in Manhattan, but specifically in Staten Island. So, no one is above the law. It's sad that this person took his oath and, literally threw it in the garbage. But what's more scary is where these drugs were going to end up. And, usually it would have been in the hands of a young person or someone suffering from opioid addiction. And God knows, how many lives were saved by undertaking this investigation and working with NYPD to get this doctor, off the street and these other guys as well. So that's all that I have. I guess we have one more meeting. Oh no, this is the last one before the holidays. So I want to wish everyone a very happy holiday, a very happy new year. We won't go anywhere. We will be working throughout the holidays. For those who don't know where we're located, we're at the Alianza Triangle building. And we're neighbors of Community Board 12, 530 West 166th Street on the 6th floor. My number, if anyone is interested, is 212-335-3320. And if anyone wants to send me an email, it's my last name. So it's Minaya, MINAYA, then the letter J at DANY.NYC.gov. And I'm only spelling it out because I don't know how to write in the chat. I'm not, Eliasar blocked me from that, so I don't know how to put it in the chat, but I'm here for you guys if anyone needs me. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you just repeat the name of the doctor again so that I can look it up in the news? The doctor
I'm happy that you said that, Luana. If anyone is interested in receiving our press releases or any of our press releases or newsletters, please email me and I'll make sure that we add you to the listserv. So the name of the doctor, Luana, is Noel, Noel, and Smith. And he was out of Tribeca.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Jocelyn.
This is recorded. How is this information used or kept or dispersed? Because I don't want my name anywhere.
And again, this is a public setting. The city of New York requires us to have this type of conversations under the open law requirements. So any comments that you might have made, even though they were public, they do reside in the archives of Community Board 12's minutes. That's what they would only be,
Just in the minutes. Okay.
just in the minutes.
All right. Thank you.
I'm not a reporter, so don't worry about it, Karen. It'll be fine.
My name, I got to be careful. I want people thinking I got money I don't have. Okay.
I get it. Well, at least we didn't get to see your face. That helps.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, not a problem. From the I always forget the Department of Corrections, the
Superintendent Miller.
Superintendent. That's right.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Yes, it's that time of year. Happy holidays. Quick update from Edgecombe. As you know, we've been doing, we have a work release aspect of the facility for women, and we have a transitional house aspect for parolees for the men. We also are neighbors to Middle School 328, and we take that responsibility very seriously. So we did our annual turkey drive, and we're able to donate 48 turkeys to the families the week before Thanksgiving. We're also in the process of doing a toy and gift drive for the middle school students. I just think it's important to understand that we should good neighbors. In relation to the residents, we've been open over 4 months now, and we haven't had any residents arrested in either one of the precincts, local precincts, and overall there's only been one person arrested, period, in that 4 months, and that was for possible graffiti, which was not ever adjudicated. So as far as local safety, we make it very clear to them that they're returning citizens, and it's important for them to take advantage of the opportunities given them, support them finding permanent housing. So that's what we're focused on, trying to get some employment agreements that we have with the Department of Homeless Services for individuals once they reach 90 days. And also we've had, I think 6 individuals return back to family members and receive a $100 stipend a week for 12 weeks to help with their unification. And we've also had individuals get interstate transfers to family in other states. And we've had individuals that were discharged to the shelter system, and DHS got a heads up on that. So it's been, working out the way that we've intended. We're putting a lot of resources behind it. We actually have a partner in the Community Reform Alliance who's going to do a job fair December 12th for those individuals, 15 individuals. They've already have their resumes. They've gotten job readiness training and have gone through mock interviews to prepare them. And some of the employees looking to hire individuals on the spot. So clearly, if you can provide somebody with employment, that can also support their, being safe, positive parts of the community. So that's what we're looking to do. All right, thank you. Oh, by the way, Jocelyn, we the DA's office did give us the resources to have a men's boutique in the facility for individuals to have professional clothing for job interviews and things of that nature. And actually, we're running out. We're looking for more. We're looking to re-up. So if there's anything else, let me know. I can't hear. You're on mute right now.
I said, let's do another drive.
Yes. It's well received.
Okay, I'll
It's
speak.
hard,
speak,
everybody appreciates the opportunity to dress properly when they're presenting, so
I'll talk to Vince and see how we can get one going.
sounds good.
Sure.
Okay,
All right.
great. Superintendent Miller, it's always nice to hear from you.
Thank
I know
you.
that you're doing the work. I park by your side and I see the kind of work you do. So I'm a first-hand witness of the work you do. Looking from the outside, yeah, it looks good. So
Thank
thank you for keeping us safe. Appreciate that. Okay, so that's it. And regarding our reports, I wanna, Paola, if you have the time, go to old business and talk about a resolution that has been lingering around this committee for a good while. And it's in reference to the public safety concerns at 168th Street Station entrance. Just wanna pretty much, because it was, when it went to the executive committee, you got a lot of good comments and a lot of friendly amendments that we agreed to integrate into the resolution. So because it was prepared so late at around 3:30, 4 o'clock, you guys didn't really have the time to read it. So I'm going to make sure that at the end of this meeting, you guys get a copy of it. Obviously, we can't, because of obvious reasons, not have you vote on it at this point, but I would want you to at least take a peek at it and see what it reads. And it just basically, and I'm sure that someone like Luana can read it a lot better than I can. So if you want to give us a pleasure of at least helping me out.
Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Eleazar, I always love how you put me on the spot always, but anything for you, hermano. So you want me to read this out loud?
Yes, you can.
Okay, all right. So public safety concerns at 168th Street Station entrance. Whereas there have been numerous documented concerns about public safety at the entrance to the 168th Street 1A and C subway station, and the continued presence of a sidewalk shed that has been a contributing factor to criminal activity due to its casting darkness in the area, making it a hub for loitering, inappropriate behavior, and harassment, at least one stabbing, open sale and consumption of narcotics, and unhoused New Yorkers who are sometimes taking refuge here. And whereas the station is the gateway to the Washington Heights community, serving residents, a nationally recognized medical and educational facility, 3 junior high schools, several elementary schools, and over 3.2 million riders in 2020. And whereas the issues at this location were delineated in a January 30th letter initiated by the Uptown elected officials and was followed up by the site tour and another letter on October 18th, including many community and civic leaders. And whereas the NYPD has increased patrol and presence at the issues at this location have not greatly improved. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we call upon the New York City Department of Buildings, New York City Department of Health, and New York City Department of Design and Construction to move forward and expedite the necessary repairs and to remove the scaffolding at 600 West 168th Street as expeditiously as possible. And that's it. You have to scroll down for me to continue reading.
No more. That's it. It's pretty basic, pretty simple. And I'm sure you can now, Paola, unless all of you guys haven't been able to read it all. Put it down, if you will, Paola. Bring us back to us.
Where's that document from?
What was that again?
Where's that document from?
It's a resolution that we created. We, as myself and some help, it was on our committee, prior to going into the summer break, and it was discussed, and we talked about revamping it because the language that it needed to reflect the real problem and the real agencies that had to be called upon in order to resolve this issue. That's what it comes from. At the beginning, we were addressing it to MTA because we thought that the scaffolding was theirs. But then we later found out that it really is these agencies that we listed on the resolutions, the one that are in charge of it. Hopefully Wayne is still around. Wayne, chimes on history, or Julio, you want to chime in?
Oh, sure. So sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Eliseth. So this resolution was initially proposed by Isidro Medina from the BID. As you mentioned, sometime well before the summer. The history has been that this has been a really problematic shed that's been there. It's been there for more than 5 years. There has not been any sort of movement in terms of repairs. And I think that it makes this resolution pretty much more important because my understanding was that based on the report that was given to the community board by the Department of Health, indicated that they were going to do the repairs in 2023, and shortly thereafter, the scaffolding will come down. Well, in reality is that we've learned that the allocations for these repairs are not in the budget. And therefore, we're not going to be seeing repairs done on this building in 2023, as the Department of Health had indicated. So I think it's important for, the elected officials already voiced their concerns. We have a number of community members and leaders, civic leaders, who also voice their concerns. And I think equally important, I think the community board, as representative body of our community, needs to join in those voices and articulate the need to have this work done as soon as possible so that this scaffolding, can be taken down, because it really impacts thousands of people each day. So, and that's really the genesis of this sort of resolution. And by the way, my apologies for being off camera. Just I haven't gotten home yet, so I'm not in a good location. So I just don't want to be disruptive having the camera on. So, but nonetheless, that is the emphasis of this resolution. I just do have a question to the committee and Eleazar, is if the committee does not vote on this tonight, what would happen then to the resolution going forward?
I think the question would be, does the committee feel comfortable enough knowing and reading this resolution in a cessation notice to vote on it? I would do as I am advised to do. I've seen it. Most of the people like Luana, Jermina, and Rabbi. The Rabbi's been with us for a while, so he knows the deal. But mostly Luana and Jermina may really have the last say into whether they feel comfortable enough voting for this or not. If not, we'll have to go back until next month. Wayne.
Just to follow up on Julio's point, if the money is not in place to have the facade work done, you might want to revise the resolved to ask the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget to ensure that the funds are allocated. And in terms of the 3 agencies that are listed, the building department really doesn't have anything to do with advancing the project. You have to file it with them to make sure everything is code compliant, but it's the health department as the client agency, and then design and construction as the agency that's going to execute the work that you need to ask to expedite it. But I would say to those 2 to expedite it, but I would also say to the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget to put the money in place so it can be expedited.
Luana?
Thank you for clarifying that, Wayne. This is a learning process for me. So maybe I apologize if the question that I will be asking will come off as a bit ignorant, but the first question is there a limitation, a time limitation as to the scaffold? So if I decide to do capital improvements on a building, do I, as a contractor or construction company, is there a deadline to get that finished within a window? Because maybe that's what we need to start thinking about as a community board, that if construction is going to go up, then there needs to be a stipulation as to when the scaffolding has to come down. That way we can compel the construction workers that they need to complete the work, whatever that work is, in a specific amount of time. That's my question. Like, is there such a thing?
I believe the city council attempted to pass a law of that nature a few years ago. And, you know, one of the things that I pointed out is, because right now my building is doing its facade work. And, you know, my point about the building department, anytime you're doing facade work or anything that's going to impact the street, you need to make sure you have protection for the pedestrians. And if a building is potentially unsafe or elements of the facade are unsafe, you're required to have pedestrian protection until it's fixed. And so if it's fixed in a year, you can take it down. If it takes 5 years, you know, you can't say, well, it's been 3 years, take it down if you still have an unsafe condition. And that was one of the things that, you know, the law that the city council was looking at, it really didn't address. I mean, you can't arbitrarily say, you know, take it down after XYZ years, if in fact the unsafe condition is fixed. And here we have a complication where it's the city of New York that's not putting the money in place to allow a city-owned building to have the facade fixed.
Thanks, Wayne. So just to move forward as a community board, maybe we can pitch a formula where the amount of work and safeguarding public safety with regards to scaffolding, maybe there's a formula so that if you're not done within a proposed window according to that formula, then maybe we need to start fining or putting in a fine so that there's an incentive to complete the work and bring the scaffold down. Because it seems like I've seen that scaffolding there forever, and there are issues, there are concerns. So I think what I'm proposing is thinking backwards and moving forward, in that there needs to be some kind of formula so that there is an incentive to get the job done, so that the scaffold comes down and then the community is safe again. I don't know. Am I being too lofty? Am I being ambitious? Or I'm new to the board, so I'm just trying to, before we tell them for it to come down, then what is the reason why it's still up? And can we get to the root cause of that reason?
My understanding, and I'm not on the committee, but we discussed this, I think, during one of the general meetings, is, you know, the building facade has work that needs to be done. And actually every building that is 5 stories or taller or 6 stories, every 5 years has to go through a process where the facade is inspected and anything that needs to be fixed or repaired needs to be done. And that came about from decades ago when a piece of architectural terracotta fell off of a building near Columbia and killed someone. And you remember, I think 2019 or so, in the Times Square area, once again, a piece of building facade fell and it killed a woman who was married to one of the Tishmans. So the whole idea is, you know, for the public to be safe. And so the scaffolding is probably up on that building because the inspection showed that there are elements of the facade that are loose, that are not safe. And, you know, my point is, the ironic thing is, it's a city-owned building. And, you know, the city and the community board is an arm of city government advocating for the work to be done. But it's also the city of New York that's not putting the money in place to get the work done.
Understood. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your patience if my question was out of bounds. I'm just trying to understand the process.
We've been talking about this very thing for some time.
Yeah, learning curve is amazing one. Probably learn more just now than I did in forever. So Jermina?
Hey, so
Jumirna.
I
Jumirna.
wanted to pretty much ask if the proposition, I remember it from the summertime. I was here during that time, is that when I saw it on the screen, I wasn't too sure what the document was about until the descriptor came about. But is that pretty much to address homelessness on the 168th train station by taking off the scaffold? Is that pretty much what the goal is by taking off the scaffold? Because if it's there for safety, then I get its purpose. But if it's to address homelessness, I don't really think that by taking that off, it would address the homelessness issue on 168th.
Can I say something, Lisan?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
I don't think this is not
Right.
designed to address the issue of
Right.
homelessness. I think that we
Right.
definitely need to do something in terms of finding some support for the men and women who are homeless and utilize the station and surrounding areas, because they just don't go to the subway, and unfortunately they're not clients of the of Project Renew Shelter. But we need to identify ways that we can assist those individuals, and this certainly is not geared towards that whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because then you have, mainly a different kind of resolution. This is mostly around public safety and trying to resolve that issue that has been lingering for years. I don't want to say 5 years. I think it's more than that. It has to be over 10 years, right, Julio?
Yeah, to be honest, it was up, and for some reason it came down, and then some months later it just came back up, and it's been there. But you're right, it has been more than 5 years, as that scaffolding has been there. And I would like to ask whether, in fact, I mean, and Wayne, as the expert, makes makes a wonderful observation, is that it's right. I mean, the Department of Building just enforces and gives out the permits and expedite those. I mean, not have anything to do with, other than saying, well, if you didn't renew your permit, you get fined. But I don't think this is the case with that. And I'd like to see whether, in fact, we can sort of delineate that portion of the New York City Department of Buildings and insert there the mayor's office of budget and management and budget, to funds be allocated to be replaced, and whether, in fact, any of the members of the board would like to make a motion whether to vote on this tonight.
Well, having said that, Luana, Rabbi, Wayne, if you're with us, Jumirna, I'd like to put a motion on the floor to vote on this resolution.
Can you put it back up, please?
Paola, if you will. So as it reads, pretty much deals with littering, inappropriate behavior, harassment, the one crime incident of the stabbing, the consumption of narcotics.
Yeah, if this is a safety issue, then I move to pass this resolution. This is not a comment on any other issues there is. What we're saying is, as if I'm reading this correctly, is that this scaffold is posing a threat to public safety, and we're just demanding that whatever repairs need to be done for it to get done so that the scaffold comes down for the sake of public safety.
Well said.
And if I may, Eleazar.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a member of the committee, but I would, if you would accept it as a friendly amendment to modify it. So it says, now therefore be it resolved that Committee Board 12 calls upon the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget to fund the project at, 600 West 138th Street and we call upon the New York City Department of Health and New York City Department of Design and Construction to move forward expeditiously, So I would, as I said before, take out the reference to the building department, add the reference first to the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget funding the project, and then call upon the client agency, which is the Department of Health and the Design and Construction Agency as their agent to move forward expeditiously.
Amended, accepted. If you can shoot me a quick email, since I'm.
If you email it to me, I'll be more than happy to track it.
I sure will. I'm doing as we speak.
I second the amendment. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you so much.
I think once that language gets changed, I think that'll be good.
Well, I mean,
was already-
you can move to,
Yeah.
you can move to adopt it as amended.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, adopt it as amendment, and then we can vote on it, even though it doesn't reflect the language of the resolve. Okay? Beautiful. So we get the votes. Any move to have this resolution adopted with the new language included? Any ayes? You gotta say it, Luana.
Yes,
Speak up.
aye. Luana Ferreira, yes. Motion to pass with the amended language, the amended verbiage as
You don't have to
proposed
say the
by
whole
Wayne.
thing. You can say yes.
Yes,
CC.
You
enough.
have to
Bring
read
it
the whole
down. Repair and bring down. Yes.
I think that was an emphatic yes. I'll say a strong.
Thank you,
yes.
Rabbi.
Jumirna?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Wayne?
Yes.
Motion passes, resolution with the new language adopted. Thank you, folks. Paola, you've been great. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that we should cover before we call this meeting for adjournment?
I wanted to potentially, I never done this before, but propose a resolution around homelessness in our train stations, because I feel that our mayor's office, it's not really, it's what it says, it's not really what it's showing in our train stations. I take the train every day. I take all the train station all the way to 242nd every day and back. And the homelessness, it's very unfortunate to see at the same time as we see more officers present. So while we have homelessness on our benches, we also have NYPD officers on the platform. And from my understanding, one of the goals was to address homelessness. And I feel that it hasn't been addressed, or, NYPD may not be working as efficiently with those city agencies that are there to provide resources for homelessness. So I'm wondering if we can create something more direct on compiling more resources or initiative to address this crisis in our neighborhood. And I know that's also aligned with mental health and drugs and all these kind of things. So how can us as a board be more hands-on with addressing homelessness as a safety issue in the neighborhood?
I would just, I'll let Eleazar comment, but I'm not sure if we're ready for a reso without a longer conversation.
Exactly. I think we should put it in new business and then resume conversation next month. Do each and every one of us bring in whatever homework we've done towards the subject, and then come together and do an open Google Doc.
The other question is, a topic like this obviously has been discussed before, and part of the question, I'll let Eleazar and Wayne as well, is what is the best committee to address things like this? There's so many aspects of homelessness in our community, and to also do a little bit of the background in terms of what has been proposed and passed in the previous years related to homelessness. I think it's for some reason, I think it's, the Steve Simons committee did something on this not so long ago. If I may be wrong, I don't remember, but it has to do with housing. There are a lot of different cross sections here of this big topic that obviously everyone is, concerned about.
Yes.
I'm also concerned, Eliasar, I'm sorry, I'm also concerned because we also don't want to conflate homelessness with public safety, because it can be misinterpreted and misconstrued that homelessness poses a threat to public safety. So I'm wondering if this issue would be better suited for health, community services, so that we can find pathways to rehoming individuals so that the verbiage does not get confused, because I get very concerned about that, conflating topics that can be led to misinterpretation.
So I guess I need to reframe what I'm trying to say. And I think it's more about accountability of the NYPD, quote unquote, addressing an issue that they're technically not, based on visibility on our street train stations, in the sense that there are cops standing next to homeless individuals. Yeah, we have the mayor saying that NYPD is addressing homelessness. So I guess I'm trying to find a way to frame that when it comes to what is the role of NYPD in this community safety based thing, rather than, addressing homelessness as a whole, because as we know, there's so many subparts to that. So what I'm trying to say is pretty much, how do we create something that aligns what their role is in this issue, since that's what our committee is around public safety, NYPD commissioning their reports. How do we pretty much align this one very sensitive, wide issue with their role in addressing it? That's pretty much how I reframe it now that I guess I'm more clear about it.
Yeah, I think the latest directives from the mayor's office, from mental health folks who are in the subway platforms, and then being picked up at will or not, and being placed in places for a day or 2 or 3 days, and being against their will, some at will, it really calls for some conversation in our end. And I agree with you, Jamirna, in the sense of, and you too, Luana, with the conversion of the two issues, whether it's I'm gonna call it public safety, or is it a mental health issue? What does the issue stand? It's been talked about and discussed so many layers in the past, but I think that we have at this point in time a better understanding of what the real issue is and how we can chime in and put in our 2 cents. So I think, Jamirna, thank you for bringing it up. I will put it as in our new business to be discussed in our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliezer.
Thank you. You always come up with great thoughts. You make me work too hard, though. Would you like me to call this meeting to order?
Motion to adjourn.
Quick, Wayne. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It was extremely
Well,
helpful.
somebody has to second it.
You already seconded, didn't you?
Oh, okay.
Well,
I'm motioning to adjourn and I'm seconding it also. You can't do that.
Eleazar,
Robert's
technically,
rules.
you called the meeting to order. What you meant to do was to adjourn.
He's
So,
tired.
wanna
He's
adjourn.
tired.
That's right. Okay, Julio. Nancy,
Thank you,
talk to you
Wayne.
later.
Thank
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Take care, all.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Wayne.
Bye-bye.